Hi, and welcome to Safe in the Real World, where we provide you the tips, insights, and guidance on how to implement Safe in your unique environment. I'm Ahmed Said, and today we're going to be talking about the release train engineer role in Safe. Now, you may be wondering why I have a bag of spices in my hand, and that's because to be a great release train engineer, you really need spices, which I'll explain a bit more about in a few moments. Now, let's have a look at the release train engineer role. The release train engineer is often referred to as a servant leader of the Agile release train, quite similar to the way in which a Scrum Master is referred to as a servant leader of an Agile or a Scrum team. So the question is, what is an Agile release train? Now, an Agile release train is a collection of between 5 and 12 Agile teams and between 50 and 125 people. So the release train engineer is responsible for facilitating key program level events on the Agile release train during the program increment. So what is the program increment? The program increment is a time box, quite similar to the way in which a Agile or Scrum team may have a time box of between 1 to 4 weeks in Scrum or 2 weeks in Safe. The Agile release train has a time box of between 8 to 12 weeks or as a 10 weeks as a default. Now, as you may know, on Safe in the Real World, we actually talk about the practical implementation of Safe. And what you will find is when you use either a 12-week cadence, for example, or even a 10-week cadence, you end up with an odd number potentially towards the end of the year. And so you just need to bear that in mind. Frequently, I find that having a slightly longer period towards the end of the year tends to work reasonably well. Another thing that I would like to bring to your attention is the duration of the program increment. Now, the duration of the program increment is inversely related to the volatility of your organization. The higher the volatility you have in your particular environment, the smaller should be the time box, because you will need more touch points and you need to be able to adjust more regularly and more rapidly. So let's have a look at what a great release train engineer actually looks like. So a great release train engineer will have SPICES, as I said. So the S stands for supporting the teams to become awesome. So we need the release train engineer to be able to guide and support and help the teams to become better all the time. We know Rome wasn't built in a day. So we want to be there to provide and support the teams on their journey step by step so that they get better. Also, we need to make sure that we provide them with the support to ensure that they have the right Agile mindset as well. We want them to have more of a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset, and that belief that they can continuously improve and get better. The next thing that I would like to bring your attention to is that's very important for a good release train engineer is the importance of preparation. Many of the events, they're going to take a long time and a lot of work. Let's take the example of PI planning. There's a lot of effort that's actually required to run a well-coordinated, efficient and effective PI planning event. And sometimes I've heard people talk about to expect PI planning to be chaotic. Well, I believe, and if you speak to people that I've worked with, where we've prepared, there's no reason for your PI planning event to be chaotic. The only reason when that happens is there's not been enough preparation. And another important thing that I think a release train engineer needs to focus on is the impediments. So they're going to have all of the teams, the number of teams, they're going to be doing deliveries throughout all of the sprints. They're going to have a bunch of issues and challenges, or sometimes we refer to them as impediments, come up. Now these are impediments that would be operating at the program level. So there could be things like, I don't know, resource pinch points. It could be waiting for delivery from another team. Maybe there's a technology issue. Maybe there's a problem with the release. Whatever it is, we're not saying that the release train engineer needs to solve all of these, but he or she should be the driver and a catalyst to ensure that these impediments are resolved in a timely fashion and they're not actually impeding the overall delivery of the Agile release train. Now, the C stands for being a campaigner. So we need to almost be a campaigner. When we're introducing Agile or even scaled Agile, it can be quite hard. We're asking for cultural and mindset shifts. You know, that can be challenging for some companies. You know, so if this company is particularly risk averse, for example, then they may need some support and help with that. I used to work for a large FTSE 100 company, and they felt that every decision needed to be made by committee. So they had the Agile, ceremonies in there, but the decision making was very inefficient and very slow. So the mindset is also a very important thing. Practices could be out of date as well. So then the other thing to think about could be, some of the practices they're bringing a slant to it that may be negating some of the benefits. For example, I've seen some stand-ups turning into status meetings. And another key thing now, moving on to from being a campaigner, is the engineering side of things. So very frequently, release train engineers tend to focus on the safe processes and the ceremonies and forgetting the engineering elements. Now that's a common anti-pattern, but the problem is delivery of real value requires some engineering chops. And so if we're not focusing on code sharing, and the teams are not focusing on test first development, they're not investing in automated testing, they're not challenging themselves with pair programming, we're not investing in continuous integration at the team and across team level, there's going to be a challenge in terms of delivery. So that's why I've got engineering there. I think it's a very important and key point. And finally is the solution delivery. So we not just focus at a scaled Agile kind of level. It's not enough just to get the software shipped. We need to make sure that we have a coherent solution which may involve a significant software element to it, but it may equally involve a significant business process element to it, a consumable marketing solution to that as well. And so we need to make sure that we have a consumable solution at the end of that. So in summary, the release train engineer is a key role, a servant leader, coach, mentor, facilitator, confidant, someone who elevates the Agile release train and helps them to become better than the PI before, the sprint before, even the day before. So I hope you found that useful. If you've got any insights or ideas on how we could improve the release train engineer role, please leave those in the tips below. And if you haven't subscribed to Safe in the Real World series, please do so. Every week I'll be releasing a video sharing such insights and answering your questions. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you very much. Bye.